Hello, my name is Amy Brown, and I'm the Director of Events and Education for FacilitiesNet and Trade Press Media Group. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, The Restroom of the Future. Our speaker today is Adam Beeson, Director of Digital Sales at Zurn Industries. Adam has been focused on smart products and solution sales for the last 15 years across lighting, HVAC, and water systems. Driven to save energy for customers and improve operational efficiencies, Adam has made his career focus to bring innovative new technologies from concept to scalable solutions adopted by many of America's largest companies. Adam consults with clients like owners, property managers, and facilities teams to implement smart products and driven data decision making and efficiencies across retail, commercial real estate, and higher education. He's also an active with advancing innovation as a member of the Building Intelligence Group, BIG TC chapter since 2018. Today's webcast learning objectives include discussing restroom sustainability options, learn about Bright Shield restroom upgrades, discover the advantages of working with a single source supplier, and learn how data and insights from Zurn's smart restroom products save water, time, and money. Before we get started with today's webcast, I'd like to cover a few details about the event. We do encourage audience questions throughout the webcast, and to submit your question, you can navigate to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type in your question. Our speaker today will answer as many questions as time permits. Also, at the conclusion of today's webcast, you'll receive a PDF copy with the presentation slides. You'll also receive a link to a brief online assessment where upon successful completion, you'll receive your CEU certificate. Today's webcast will also be archived at facilitiesnet.com/webcast. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Amy, and welcome everybody. Really appreciate you joining today. I see we've got some additional attendees just coming into the room. We have an action-packed hour together today to discuss the restroom of the future. What does that mean? And a number of the key elements that make up a smart and connected restroom that will benefit facilities teams and owners in the future to come. Thank you again for joining. We'll get underway. All right, as mentioned, I'm Adam Beeson. I'm the Director of Digital Sales with Zurn Water Solutions. And really my focus is dedicated to educating the market around what is the concept of the restroom of the future and helping to facilitate future upgrades to commercial facilities of all shapes and sizes. The last couple of years have provided some significant changes in our world, and now is the time to review those best practices with regard to reopening, the new normal, a better future in commercial facilities. Today's topics, as Amy mentioned, we're going to cover the sustainability opportunities in the commercial restroom of the future. What is Bright Shield and the opportunity for single source suppliers, as well as we'll touch on the touchless smart restroom technology that's certainly integral to the future. So a quick note to get things started. For those of you who are not familiar, Zurn is now Zurn Water Solutions, or ZWS, a family of companies that's joined together as a pure water play business dedicated to solving sustainability issues across the entire commercial water system. From backflows to drains to finished plumbing solutions in the restroom, Zurn is working to innovate and drive sustainability across all parts of the commercial water system. Oh, excuse me. Let's move back one. There we are. So Zurn, I'll go this way. The Zurn Water Solutions mission, there we are, is to provide the safest, most efficient water solutions to promote human health and the environment. Today's program is going to be focused around the restroom of the future. We will have a poll question for the attendees to start to get a better understanding of where you're at in your journey with restrooms today? We pull up poll number 1, please. Thank you. So the question is, when was the last time your restroom fixtures were updated? Anywhere from 0 to 3 months, all the way to 11 to 30 plus years. Or perhaps you're a property manager, facility manager, and your facility has never been updated. This could include the faucets, flush valves, or it could be a more comprehensive full restroom gut and remodel. We'll just take a few minutes. Please select one that is closest to what is actual for the facilities that you manage today. All right. We'll take just a few more minutes. If you haven't selected yet, please choose from the available options, something that is approximately close to your current situation. And we'll take a minute to look at that information as well. Okay. So this is interesting. We have sort of a normal distribution curve happening here with just 6% recently updated in the last 3 months. In total, about 18% within the year, and 40% of folks between 1 to 5 years ago have completed a renovation, meaning we're looking at about 30–40% that are 6+ years on, and it looks like about 8% have a facility in which a restroom fixture upgrade has not been completed. Interesting. So really, I'd say the full spectrum is represented, with perhaps a lion's share of folks in the last 5 years having completed some form of upgrade. Thank you very much. All right. So if we think about the opportunity for sustainability in the restroom, as I switch slides here, thank you very much. We've got some interesting information to share regarding where sustainability can be impacted in those restroom environments. The Zurn Water Solutions portfolio of products demonstrates opportunities for sustainability improvements in several areas. I can simplify these contributions at a really high level when you think of protecting, reducing, and recycling. Restrooms, it turns out, are a significant place to get started to have a positive impact on your building's sustainability goals, probably a lot more than many realize. Some examples that we wanted to share with you today are things like incorporating hand dryers can save up to 250,000 trees a year in paper towel consumption. And that's a statistic from 2021 from the World Dryer product. The opportunity for reducing, updating flow rates and faucets and flush valves is an example of how to help contribute to saving up to 34 billion gallons of water in the last year. Again, another Zurn brand statistic from our portfolio of products. And lastly, recycling. There's opportunities in the vendors you work with to choose partition partners, that are using up to 91% recycled content in the products that they're manufacturing. So these are just 3 examples of where sustainability can be incorporated into a restroom upgrade or update. Very good. So just to round out the conversation on Zurn Water Solutions, serving in the environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, in several ways. As an organization, Zurn is very focused on putting time back into the community through volunteer work and building more products that meet EPA's WaterSense designations. These are just a couple of examples that demonstrate the contributions to the larger goal of sustainability and water practices for the impact we have here in our market. To take a different approach and look at the portfolio of offerings, we look at ZWS as summarized into 3 categories. And really, this represents the holistic view of a commercial facility, where 40% of the business is in the water safety and controls. You could think of backflow, fire, PRVs. 30% is around hygienic and environmental solutions. Think of the restroom and drinking water applications. This will be a focus of today's presentation. And 30% of the business is focused around flow systems, things like drainage, piping, etc. But ultimately, it's the entire ecosystem of a commercial plumbing solution that is impacted. I want to share an example of how all these elements come together to deliver a sustainable partnership and has a significant impact in a large facility. The Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas opened in 2020. It has a capacity of 65,000 fans and was a close partnership opportunity for Zurn to work in the early design phases to implement the entire portfolio of drainage, backflow, fire, as well as restroom solutions into the facility. Working with the facilities and design team, we're able to select devices like faucets and flush valves that met some of those sustainability initiatives around flow rates. And as you can see, the impact in the terms of gallons of water saved, especially on an annualized rate, is really significant, taking almost 300 restrooms into account and applying the correct gallons per minute of flow or gallons per flush on a toilet or urinal has a significant total impact as you roll up those dollars together. In the form of gallons saved per year, we're talking about 535 million gallons in this single facility alone. And to me, this is a really good example of the impact that can be had in the opportunity to upgrade and update facilities. So what I'd like to share with you now is a all new concept that Zurn is introducing to the marketplace. We call it Bright Shield. Bright Shield is the most complete portfolio for hassle-free, hygienic, and sustainable solutions in the restroom. In a new world where clean, touch-free, and hygienic experiences are strongly preferred in public spaces, Zurn's developed the Bright Shield solution to help simplify building upgrades and restroom renovations. So you're probably interested to better understand, what does Bright Shield really mean and what is included. Bright Shield Bundle, as we like to refer to it, for building owners, facility managers, architects, and like, is developed by Zurn Water Solutions to help make restroom upgrades easier. What we've done is effectively curate a collection of products that are the most commonly needed and used in restroom applications, and made sure we select high quality, long lasting, good fit selected SKUs into this bundle. With the most complete and high performance brand portfolio from a single source provider, so that that restroom is more efficient, hassle-free, hygienic, and sustainable. Brings together all the major elements of the commercial restroom to make that product selection and upgrade as simple as possible. And as you can see in the graphic below, that ZWS bundle of solutions includes the Zurn brand of commercial plumbing, your faucets, flush valves, soap dispensers, as well as things like hand dryers from the World Dryer line of product. We have partitions that are part of the Zurn Bright Shield package. That's the Hadrian line of product you can see as well. We've got mixing valves and things like hand washing systems or sink systems as well. And then it also includes drinking water solutions, as well as some of the newer innovative things like occupancy lights, as you can see pictured on the left there. Ultimately, this package is created to help reduce complexity, streamline some efficiencies, and it provides something that no other company is able to offer in the restroom portfolio space. So this is a byproduct of listening to the market. Bright Shield as a total restroom upgrade offering is really designed for property managers, facility managers like yourselves. There's 4 primary benefits that the Bright Shield bundle was created to deliver today. That's savings, hygiene, it's a complete solution, and of course, it's sustainable. So just to take a couple of minutes to dive a little bit more specifically into what do we mean. From a saving standpoint, you're talking about improved reliability of a product, cost saving opportunities, and ultimately efficiencies that come from working with a single source provider. This really plays out in paying for itself with operational savings, maintenance improvements, and repair costs over the life of the restroom. And I'll talk about some specific examples of that in the upcoming slides. From a hygienic standpoint, we've curated a collection of products that are a good fit for a modern restroom today, improving the reduction of touch points, moving to a touch-free environment. These things are often easier to clean. Devices are selected with the janitorial side in mind as well for cleaning efficiencies and reducing the maintenance impact as well. As a complete solution, this is a simpler, single-sourced, and often faster application to work with only one manufacturer providing a complete restroom upgrade. It's single-sourced and backed with an extended warranty from a single supplier as well. And from a sustainability impact, we're talking about the ability to reduce and recycle, environmental impact from the restrooms. We have a water savings opportunity. There's energy, natural resources reductions from a portfolio of solutions, as mentioned previously in a few examples, to help organizations meet those stewardship goals. So as I mentioned, this is a byproduct of the market. And one of the other things to mention is we've been paying closer attention to some of the trends that have been occurring in the last few years during and in a post-COVID world. A couple of things I wanted to share with you today, specifically from a property management and facility maintenance standpoint. We looked very closely at the education and office market segments as we think of the new normal coming off of a global pandemic. The two primary areas where the work is coming together is you can think of kids going back to school, as well as many of us returning to office. So many of the shifts that are now happening include, we'll say, a closer attention to things like hygiene and touch points as a result of COVID. But really, there's more than that. There's elements like deferred maintenance in a lot of these facilities that have gone unchecked. We'll say there have been other priorities put in its place. We now are in an environment where it's about attracting students at the K-12 and university level, providing that safe, clean, hygienic environment. There's some ESSER funding opportunities that can help, we'll say, facilitate some of these upgrades in designated areas. And on the commercial office side, we're talking about bringing people back to work and some of the significant impacts around those operational efficiencies from those who are responsible for maintaining those office buildings, especially despite some current labor shortages. The ESG component and governance that we highlighted earlier, and more importantly than anything else, establishing a healthy, safe environment for those employees returning to the office so that they can focus on what's most important. All right. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about a little bit more on the saving side of the Bright Shield solution. So inherently, one of the things we know to be true is that we're looking for a ROI, a solid ROI when it comes to bundling a solution together for facility managers and owners. Typical life of the restroom we see as a 10+ year, depending on vertical market and usage, but really focusing on how can we help reduce facility operating costs through things like water conservation, elimination of waste, maintenance efficiencies, and deploying long-lasting products. So there's a few ideas I want to leave with you here. Number one, reliability for more uptime and efficiency. Things like the Zurn gear-driven flush valves means that there's no traditional temperamental solenoids to be replacing. That can reflect a savings of $150 per flush valve over the typical life of a given restroom. There's things like reduced maintenance cost. where we can use the Zurn Go Blue flush valve diaphragm kits and replacement part kits that are set to last 2 times longer versus the black natural rubber diaphragm kits. And that's also another savings of up to $94 per fixture over a typical life of a restroom. There's that energy savings opportunity that I mentioned before. One way we achieve that is what we call the hydropower solution of products. As an example, a faucet using hydropower has a 10-year battery life, and it's using the flow of the water itself to power the faucet. So you eliminate things like battery replacements on a typical battery faucet, or the challenge of power outages with hardwired faucets as well. This inherently saves time and can reduce those energy costs by 30% compared with those hardwire solutions. Lastly, the idea of saving on paper costs. So there's about a $3,500 typical cost per year for paper towels versus hand dryers, reducing that cost dramatically. And you're also looking, I will say, we'll go a little bit in greater detail later. As a result of the pandemic, hand washing and hygiene is up. Somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30% increases in hand washing in given facilities today. That translates into a 30% increase in consumables. Both soap and paper are being used at a much higher rate. Your costs are going up, no doubt you've noticed in the last year around those consumables. And while some facilities are choosing to move completely away from paper and use just a hand dryer, at a minimum, we feel like the right complement is to have a combination of both paper and air, as we know that that hand dryer will continue to operate. It does not need to be restocked. And that's, quite frankly, just one of the limitations of using paper, especially in a market where hand washing has increased so dramatically. So we'll talk a little bit about the hygienic side of BrightShield. I mentioned earlier, the pandemic has increased the expectations for creating a hygienic and safe environment. The BrightShield portfolio of products has been designed to help solve for that specific ask with what we're calling the new standard in total restroom hygiene. Some of the products that make up this hygienic bundle are, of course, those touchless sensor products in a faucet and flush valve, creating a restroom experience that requires fewer contact points and help combine the risk of transmitting germs. Back to the hand dryers, there's also the integration of a HEPA filtration in your hand dryer, capturing 99.97% of particles to clean the air before it reaches the hands. From a partition standpoint, we have enhanced privacy partitions that create a barrier to help block the spread of respiratory particles over and under the stalls, as well as between urinals. And the newer product that some of you might not be familiar with, you can see here, is the occupancy light. The occupancy light is used to optimize stall usage, shorten waiting times, maintain privacy, and there's a data component as well that we'll talk about a little later in the presentation. Things like the hygienic sink materials and technologies are something that we could speak about. Materials that are antimicrobial, durable, sustainable, non-porous, and easier to clean and repair are becoming much more widely used. And last but not least, there's the touchless portable hand washing stations that provides a mobile system that conveniently puts touch-free hand washing where it's needed, even where water is limited. All of these solutions and more are also part of the well building standard that Zurn is dedicated towards helping achieve. So before we move on, I'd like to pull up the next poll question if we could. Important is the hygienic restroom upgrade and the plans to reopen your facility in the next year or two. Very important, high consideration, neutral, or not very important. Please select one. Thank you. Okay, and we'll give it just another moment. If you could make one selection, please, one of the four regarding how important is the hygienic restroom. Thank you very much. Let's take a look at the data. So it appears that in total, about 70% say it's either very important or a high consideration. Got about 27% neutral, and looks like only 2% of respondents are saying it is not important in their facility. Very good. Thank you so much. And we will continue on to the next element. Okay. All right. So now I'd like to talk about the completeness of a restroom upgrade. One of the key elements that we have received feedback on is having a complete restroom portfolio with an extended warranty that's coming from a single source manufacturer that will ultimately help make it easy to upgrade and select products that helps to meet budgets and deadlines for clients. So there's a number of items here. I'll take just a moment to walk through some of the particulars, but again, the single source solution has a number of benefits to it. Zurn is very proud to have compiled really the only complete restroom upgrade offering that is as comprehensive as what we've walked through. Easier to select those products and ultimately have a singular restroom maintenance touch point as well for those parts programs on a go forward for the life of the restroom. At the end of the day, we feel that this is one of the more compelling value propositions to create a total lower cost of ownership. Ease and speed, we think of today's environment with less handling and consolidation from various manufacturers in order to design and implement an upgrade. We're looking to achieve on-time delivery of products when and where they're needed to, again, save time and keep those projects on track. Availability. Large distribution footprints with strategically located service centers will have that local stocked inventory and availability. And the last component of the BrightShield advantage is that customer focus guaranteed. So a bundle of products that come from one priority customer service group, one point of problem resolution, along with training resources and dedicated specification tools are part of the program. Very good. And last but not least, we have the element of sustainability. The BrightShield portfolio has been curated or built to help meet those stewardship goals of protecting, reducing, and recycling natural resources throughout the lifetime of these commercial restrooms. I mentioned some of these statistics before, but we're very proud of the fact that the World Dryer touchless hand drying is saving more than 250,000 trees a year. Zurn Water Solutions in total is impacting more than 34 billion gallons of water just in the last year. And that Zurn Hadrian partitions, stainless partitions, are made up of 91% recycled content. All of these small pieces come together to create a very powerful impact on the broader goal of sustainability. All right, the next topic is very interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about the smart restroom upgrade. And this to me is another component where, again, it's an option of the BrightShield bundle is to include smart technology products. And effectively, when we think of the restroom of the future, it's going to include more data into the solution. And we'll talk in the upcoming slides around how that impacts facilities teams and can help take the restroom to the next level to offer remote monitoring, data-driven insights, and ultimately better decision-making for you and your teams, helping to keep restroom uptime as close to 100% as possible. The themes that we'll touch on are things like sensing, anticipating, and responding. Some of you might be familiar with the idea of smart products in the restroom, others maybe not so much. So I'll run through some of the details of the program and give some good use case examples as well. see. Excuse me. All right. All right. So we've got poll question number 3. If we could pull up. Before moving on, thank you very much. The final poll question we have for you today: which value carries the most weight in your decision to upgrade your restroom facilities? We're looking at cost savings, complete single source provider. Is it the hygienics, maintenance efficiencies, or sustainability? Please just choose one from the following. Okay. And again, please just choose one from the following and submit. Thank you very much. Okay, very good. So number 1 option is the maintenance efficiencies in deciding to upgrade, followed by cost savings. And then it looks like sustainability and hygienic are fairly close at 17 and 14%. Very good. And the single source provider is only 3%. Excellent. All right, thank you. So the maintenance efficiencies piece, we're going to be able to touch on in greater detail in the next phase of the presentation. Before we move on, just for context, when we talk about this Bright Shield bundle, it's a very simple application. Really, it generally starts with an upgrade from the faucet and flush valve, choosing the good fit models that are applicable for your facility. And in addition to the faucet and flush valve upgrade, it could be any 2 of the products of the remainder of the portfolio. Things like the hand dryers, could be pressure reducing valves, could be the occupancy lights that we offer, as well as partitions, sink hand washing systems, or things like the portable hand washing solution as well. Ultimately, what we're building here is when you select your faucet and flush valve and 2 additional products from the portfolio, you'll receive an extended 7-year warranty on all of those products. 1 call customer for service, and the benefits of the single source partner for ongoing support. Very good. All right. So to summarize, we've discussed restroom sustainability options. We have walked through what is Bright Shield and talked a little bit about restroom upgrades and that process, and also discovered some of those advantages of working with a single source supplier. Next up, we want to talk about learning how data and insights from that smart restroom and restroom products of the future can help to save water, time, and money in your facilities. Before we can talk about the future of the restroom, we should take a quick moment to understand the past. And one of the comments that we typically get is, I'm not familiar with Zurn. So the quick rundown is Zurn is a 120-year-old manufacturing story that back in 1900 got its start. The importance here is that this is a long-standing manufacturer built around quality and innovation. Those are the 2 elements that have helped keep us competitive in the market, and really in today's world, driving to deliver on those new key products that we'll call the restroom of the future. So when we think about the ongoing message of Zurn, as I mentioned earlier, it's a comprehensive portfolio of products that really touches every element of a commercial building from entry to exit for a water system. And the goal is to be hyper-focused on all those key points of the commercial building where water is interacting with you and your building on premises, and continue to drive that innovation and new product development to achieve better and better results. When we think about, obviously, the restroom, there's a number of key components, but there's so much more that goes into your commercial facilities that you're managing today. The key element here is that Zurn, again, has the comprehensive partner opportunity whether it's in the restroom to build confidence with touchless solutions, upfront and lean construction opportunities, as well as compliance when it comes to meeting local standards and regulations, as well as digital plumbing specifications. This is a comprehensive organization that has a lot of really smart and talented people that are on board to help facilitate the needs of new construction, as well as building upgrade programs as well. Now, one of the keys to bring things back is survey data in the last few years around the impact of the restroom in customer satisfaction, user experience, and there's been a great number of studies that have been conducted in recent years, all of which are really pointing to a few core themes that I think are really important as a foundation to build off of, which is that a clean restroom is so important to a positive customer experience. Really across vertical markets, it's a consistent theme that with a few of the statistics I've got on screen here, you can see directly goes towards return visits, as well as customer satisfaction and improved spending in applications, whether it's a university or an airport, offices, stadiums, convention centers, malls. All of these facilities have public spaces and commercial restrooms with similar challenges. Exactly the products you're using and perhaps how you're maintaining those facilities will vary based on usage rates, et cetera. But the key takeaway is that how facility teams and janitorial teams can stay on top of these facilities and be confident that those restrooms are stocked, clean, and operational all day long is really the secret to the restroom of the future. And so one of the ways that we can leverage new tools to help ensure that that is the case and improve uptime is with some of these data-driven insights and decision-making. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got the faucet, the flush valve, and the occupancy light that are example devices of smart or connected devices that are feeding information that ultimately can help you be more proactive with how you're maintaining your restrooms, maintaining your facilities, and ultimately being confident about the current state of things. And I'll walk through some examples of what that looks like with some real world data. Jump back one, please. There we are. So the first element is sensing. What I'd like to, we mentioned having a smart faucet and a smart flush valve. When you deploy those two things in real time and they're communicating their usage rates up to a thing called PlumSmart, that's effectively an app that's available that pulls all this data together. One of the things that's an output is a hand washing score. Simply stated, the connection of a flush valve flushing and then a hand wash occurring in a certain time frame, we have a high degree of confidence around what that hand washing rate would be. So having that data can help improve things like the cleanliness around your facility and reducing germ transference in restrooms. One customer example is when they see an area that has a lower than average hand washing score is they can add more hand sanitizer stations in that part of the facility. Things like fixture and water usage data are inherent to this new smart restroom, right? Because every hand washing, every flush is counted, and we know the gallons per minute, we know the gallons per flush. And so inherently, you now have a restroom level view, you have a device level view of where the water is being used in your facilities. Knowing where the water consumption is happening at the device level, and ultimately getting alerts to unusually high or unusually low usages can help, again, have a better understanding of what's working and what's not in your facility, And for facility teams that are stressed from a headcount standpoint or feel they're pulled in a lot of different directions, this can be hugely beneficial data to, again, be proactive with where they're deploying resources and having better information when they get there, to be alerted if there's an issue. The last element is this occupancy light. And so if you're not familiar, this is typically mounted over the stall. And this occupancy light is a combination of both light and sensor. So there's no change to the stall itself. By just entering and exiting the stall, it will change color to indicate, obviously, green for unoccupied and red for occupied. That data, again, can be combined with the flush valve and help to understand, are you having normal usage behavior or abnormal usage with regard to people entering and exiting the stalls? All right, so from sensing and pulling data from these faucets and flush valves, we move to the ability to respond. And this is where facilities teams can really take advantage of these tools and be what we'll call predictive and proactive in how they're responding. Restrooms of the future will go beyond a clipboard when it comes to maintenance and cleaning practices in their facilities. Some of the examples that I pulled up here for sharing is what you get when you aggregate or pull together data of a restroom, for example, over a period of time. So this first graphic is looking at reviewing cleaning and staff efficiencies. When you compare usages and peak time of use on a given days of a week, right? This data is all available now. So you can monitor, if you're a university campus, for example, each of your buildings and their typical usage rates. You can view that data in a day, a week, a month, or even a year. And you can start to better understand when people are in those given facilities, when their peak usages are, and you can plan accordingly for all of those things, whether it's maintenance, janitorial cleaning schedules, etc. The second element here is responding to uses and giving those tools to the facilities folks that need to be in more places at once. So here's a snapshot of the type of status update that's available for any given device, letting you know that it's in working order, everything is good, the solenoid is at 95% life, there's battery indication that's available as well. All of the key elements that would typically be nuisances or challenges for folks managing facilities, you can now have insights to, right? And whether it's a battery that's coming up on end of life, you can plan for that and get ahead of it, as opposed to what is commonplace today is hearing from a customer or hearing from a building occupant that something is no longer operational and then going back and fixing. The last element here is the third graphic that's indicating a run-on or exceptionally high usage that's occurring in a given restroom. So when something like this arises, you can have an alert triggered that could often come to your phone and let you know that restroom 2 on the second floor and stall number 5 is having an excessive water usage, abnormally high usage, and it's a perfect trigger event to go take a look, again, being more proactive in the approach to get ahead of this thing, as opposed to how practices are done today when it's usually too late. So the restroom of the future will also help anticipate and predict these issues before they arise. This is the third component, and I think of this as acting to support those facilities teams with those key insights around user behavior, trends, and really how to improve how we can maintain facilities, leveraging some simple data around how people are using your facilities today. Now, again, this data is coming from things like faucets and flush valves and occupancy lights that are installed in your restroom. these are the same fixtures that you would normally have, and they look exactly the same as a non-connected standard device. One of the things that you can see here is improving those restroom consumables could be a byproduct of this. Right now, understanding your peak usage times is an opportunity to also schedule when you'd want to be looking at replacing consumables. There's a machine learning component, which is, we'll say, more of the advanced technology. But really what this is doing is taking a look at historical averages and then applying that onto current behavior. And this is what's enabling facilities managers to understand, what should I anticipate for usage today based on historicals. And then the last component I mentioned before, things like maintenance alerts. This is a really simple application, but now, again, rather than a break fix opportunity, you can be receiving alerts down to the individual device that will help you schedule some of your maintenance practices with your team, right? So again, at the end of the day, trying to support facilities teams to give those key insights to help you spend your time on higher and better use, as opposed to chasing nuisance issues on a regular basis. So we've covered a tremendous amount of different topics today. And when we talk about the restroom of the future, obviously technology is a component of that. But I think the other thing that it remains true is, there's continuously a pressure to try to do more with less. While technology can be a part of the solution, it's certainly not the entire answer. The last slide that I wanted to share with you is sort of a summary slide. And in this summary, it really tries to encapsulate that restroom of the future and the core benefits of how having some updated products installed in the restroom can actually help facilitate the entire operation, maintenance, and janitorial teams to be where they need to be, right? To optimize where they're spending their time and to be confident that the byproduct of all of that is restrooms that are fully operational, clean, stocked, and ready for the upcoming demand. So some of these should feel like summaries, but the first and foremost is rapidly detecting and being able to proactively respond to issues and abnormalities when they do arise. Now, what we see in a lot of these new applications is these are all new devices, and there really are very rare issues that occur. It's more about the usage patterns and understanding some anomalies. So perhaps a good example is, I mentioned that occupancy light. When you combine that data, we could start to see a number of uses where the occupancy changed, but only for a few seconds, and then users moved to another stall. If that happens 2 or 3 times in a row, that's a perfect trigger event to send JanSan to go take a look. And more often than not, that stall likely needs cleaning or service, right? So the sooner you can get to that event, solve the issue, and get it restored back to good condition, you're reducing the number of negative impressions that are happening in your facility and ultimately maintaining a higher uptime. Remotely monitoring 24/7 to locate and confirm issues before sending staff. This is another piece that I touched on before, but just imagine having all of this information available in an app on your phone, and when something occurs, having the understanding to know what floor, what restroom, what stall, and really what is the issue. It's going to allow you to have a first time fix rate that goes up dramatically, sending the right folks out to service something, to look at making a repair or a simple JanSan cleanup. The predictive maintenance tasks. So again, through data analytics, like that battery life monitoring and alerts, you could now have a very simple schedule that would enable your facilities teams to get out and replace those batteries on given devices before they run to fail, right? again, maintaining the uptime and ensuring that all of those devices are operational. Efficiently managing cleaning schedules to match traffic volumes. This is what I call the clipboard effect. But at the end of the day, now you have the data and insights to understand how many users per hour are coming through this restroom Monday through Friday or on the weekends. Depending on your application, it could vary substantially. But really, at the end of the day, it's let's line up usage with cleaning so that after 50, 70, 100, whatever that number of uses per restroom, we feel confident that we're able to schedule and have a cleaning staff spot check or perhaps do a complete cleaning of that given restroom. And last but not least is anticipating guest needs. At the end of the day, one of the key drivers and significant impact to ROIs is around improving satisfaction scores and increasing what we'll call revenue potential, right? So in a retail environment or an airport, it's a very clear correlation to a positive restroom experience yields revenue increases. The argument's a little bit different, but in an office environment, you still want to have happy customers, right? You want to have people having clean, hygienic, and positive restroom experiences so they can focus on the other tasks at hand. At the end of the day, the smart restroom of the future is going to help facilities managers and their teams improve uptime and leverage data-driven insights to help make better decisions. Thank you very much for joining today's presentation. We covered a lot. I'd now like to open it up for questions and have a discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Adam. That was a great presentation with a lot of information. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for Adam, please use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen and type in your question. We'll get to as many as we can. Adam, one question from an attendee is, what is the technology behind the data collection? What is the operating units that capture the activity for the data?
Sure, great question. So how it works is really very simple. The faucets, flush valves, occupancy lights, each have a communicating device we'll call an endpoint, and that's effectively sending wirelessly its usage data back to a device called a gateway. You could think of it like a network router. And that gateway is collecting information from all the various devices that are installed in a given facility and sending that information to PlumSmart or to the cloud, where it can be viewed on your app, on your phone, on your laptop. So I won't get into the details of it, but it's a robust, secure wireless communication between the edge devices to the gateway. That gateway could be on a local area network, or it could be off your network and running on a separate LTE signal. So the option is yours.
Perfect, thank you. Someone was looking for a little clarification on, you were mentioning hand washing score. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So a hand washing score is a calculation that is out of PlumSmart that's telling you what is the percentage mix of people that are using either a urinal or a toilet and then washing their hands. So it's combined data from a faucet and flush valve and a timing stamp of when those things occur to establish what percentage of users are actually washing their hands. And anecdotally, it was in maybe the 50% range in a pre-pandemic for both men's and women's, slightly higher for women's. And during the pandemic and after, 90s and settling into the 80s is very consistent in hand washing today. So again, 30% increase, that's a lot more hand washing, and you're likely seeing that in your consumables, your garbage collection, et cetera.
Yes, we'd like to hope that those hand washing scores stay high.
So far, the trend has maintained. So we'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, people won't forget this pandemic for quite a period of time. And whether or not it's driven by COVID, I think there's just a new appreciation for hygiene that for over the last 2 years has been hammered into people today.
Yeah. We had another question, Adam, specific about COVID. And is there any technology or anything in place that would allow facility managers to use faucets, turn on faucets, flush toilets without physically being there to turn those on when there's a low usage in a building?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is absolutely. So some of you that have updated in the last 5 years to sensor touchless, it depends on what you bought. But for example, as a standard on all Zurn sensor faucet products is the ability to do purge, right? And a purge is effectively that. It's going to run every faucet for 2 minutes, 24 hours after its last usage in order to keep moving water through the system. And the same with flush valves, right? Flushing on a regular cadence to continue to move water through the system. There's one version it's a dip switch selectable, right? Where you set that on the device itself. And then the smart and connected has a auto purge setting that's basically in PlumSmart, where you can schedule those events to occur. And that's another really strong mechanism to keep water moving through your system, whether it's over a long weekend or weeks at a time, if there's shutdowns like we've experienced in the past.
Perfect. Somebody's asking if you can just give some general specs on flow rates.
Sure. So flow rates can vary hugely, anywhere from 1.5 gallons per minute in a faucet, all the way down to, again, local markets like California, et cetera, have some, 0.5 to 0.25 and even less now. So, I mean, it's a pretty massive range. Some of the latest stuff that we've seen, it's more air than water, right? But it's almost like a mist that's coming out. Makes hand washing a little bit more challenging for sure. But Zurn offers a very broad spectrum of flow rates when you're ordering products. It's an extension, whatever you want to use for an aerator. Those are adjustable, right? So you can change those out. But I would say at the end of the day, one of the most compelling parts of whether it's sensor or smart and connected is moving from manual in most environments means you're eliminating that common, I left the faucet on, whether it was intentional or on accident. And that's where a tremendous amount of waste occurs.
Perfect. We've had a few questions specifically about the gateways. So one person's asking if there's additional cost for the gateway or PlumSmart software to go with the edge devices.
Sure. So we offer two services when it comes to the gateways and software and ongoing. The gateway itself, typically you'll just need one per building. Again, it's sort of generic, but if it's a large stadium, you're going to need a few of those devices because of the size. The range is good from anywhere from 20 to 1,000 feet, depending on the construction and size of the facility. But from a costing standpoint, we offer a freemium service for PlumSmart, meaning you can go forward and use PlumSmart with 0 annual costs, and it has really solid functionality. What we offer everyone who starts using our smart and connected products is our full comprehensive PlumSmart that does have an annual fee. We waive that fee to start to showcase all of the capabilities. And in general, what we find is people who use it and use the data and understand what we're providing, you're seeing 10x returns from total ROI each year versus what the annual SaaS fee is. And that annual charge is just a function of how many devices you're putting out there, right? So if you're a convenience store and you've got just a handful of devices, it's a very small charge, right? But if it's a stadium environment or an airport, and you've got thousands of faucets and flush valves, obviously that site charge will be a function of the number of devices deployed.
Perfect. We also had a few questions about hand dryers. One person is asking about, they've heard some concerns from patrons about the blowing germs, and somebody else asked, can you discuss just the general use of hand dryers in most facilities?
Yeah, for sure. I am not the hand dryer expert, but I certainly know enough to manage the conversation. So a couple of things. much like sensor faucets and flush valves, in the last decade, there's been tremendous technology advancements with hand dryers, right? So a couple of the key complaints that we addressed: one, most of the new hand dryers that are coming out today include a HEPA filtration that is as good as what they're putting on airplanes as far as pumping air and recirculating air. So it truly is cleaning the air as it's being used and to dry hands. The second component is noise. And the latest line of World Dryer hand dryers has the highest performance with the lowest decibels on the market, right? So that means you're getting a complete hand dry in that 10-second range. And it's doing it that's whisper quiet and could be mounted on a wall that might be an adjacent classroom. So, again, that's a high level conversation, but usually what people are talking about now is there's a hands-in version of hand dryers, or there's obviously the non-hands-in type. Both are still available from World Dryer, and really has more to do with your setup, your specific needs, and we can help get you connected with some product experts to help understand the differences between models.
Perfect. And then we did have a few questions just about either gender neutral bathrooms or family bathrooms. I would assume most of the things that you discussed in this presentation would apply to a single bathroom as well. Adam, any thoughts on those kinds of bathrooms?
Yeah, no, they're certainly growing in popularity and percentage of total restrooms in most commercial facilities. So everything we talked about today is applicable. The one caveat is we are designing a second occupancy light that isn't meant to go over a stall like we have today, but instead would go out front of a single-use restroom or gender-neutral stall that is a full wall partition. So that's in development and should be released later this year. But everything else is designed and set up to be used in either individual or a larger group restroom.
And I'm talking about those occupant sensors. Can you just talk about any requirements needed to add those into a bathroom? Are those hardwired, wireless, electricity needs?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really exciting product. Zurn is not the first to market with the occupancy light, but we took our time to develop a better solution. So as I mentioned before, the entire thing is housed in the light itself. And what that means is I can jump back and show a graphic here just for reference. So there is a installation. These are hardwired for power, and they communicate wirelessly, but you're looking at a low voltage daisy chain that gets from a local transformer. I think it's 24-volt power that is daisy chained one to the next to these occupancy lights to run the power to them. But outside of that, typically there's a lot of either drop ceilings in restrooms, or if it's a hard finish ceiling, the key is installation location just needs to be at the entrance, because again, it's based on occupancy walking in. So we just want to make sure it's installed in the right location. But once they're up and operational, it's fantastic. Usually the commentary is especially strong in the women's side, saying how thankful they are to not have to be ducking under and looking for feet. That goes away. There's also the ability to put a screen out front and visualize the occupancy rates in real time. Depending on your application, that could be useful as well.
Perfect. Well, we are well over our 60-minute mark here, Adam. So we got lots of wonderful questions. I know a few people, looks like in the Q&A, will be reaching out for some additional information as well. Adam, any final thoughts for our audience today?
No, I really want to just say thank you all for the thoughtful questions. There's a lot of moving parts in the restroom of the future. We touched on a good number of points today, but this is an area of excitement. There's a lot of opportunity for improvement here. I appreciate everybody sticking it out for the full hour, and look forward to continuing the communication from Zurn Water Solutions on how we're helping to assist folks like yourselves in improving facilities and deploying the restroom of the future.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Adam and Zurn Water Solutions for hosting today's event. Just a reminder, you'll be receiving a copy of today's presentation, as well as a link to the archive and a copy of, or a link for your CEU questions. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you at a future Facilities Net webcast. Thanks, Adam, and have a great
Thanks,
day.
everybody.